And Paladin, for those of you who don't know, it means kind of taking up the charge, like the white knight on the horse, is looking out for people. And so that's kind of what our thought was, all these people, me included, was one of those who got kind of scammed by an advisor who wasn't necessarily looking out for my best interest, but was looking out for theirs.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Debbie Freeman. She's the CEO at Paladin Digital Marketing. Debbie, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you very much for having me.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Debbie, why don't you start and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. Well, my background is I've done several things in my career. I started primarily with a 20-year plus career in the banking industry. Started, as a teller, way back when, and then worked into, back office operations for a number of years during the savings and loan crisis. I managed a team that was responsible for merging and converting failed thrifts that our company was taking over from the government and merging them into our organization. So I did mergers and acquisitions for a number of years, did IT project management, did retail operations management, did all sorts of different things. Then I actually moved over to Wells Fargo for a short time, where I was the e-commerce manager, and that was right before the dot-com bubble. And so we were underwriting credit card processing for all of these new dot-coms that had just risen, and it was a really interesting time because they had all sorts of money, but they didn't really know how to manage credit card processing or their operations. So we were helping them through with that. And then I got into the security side of the financial industry and was a project manager for a firm that was rolling out some new technology for financial advisors. And so that's kind of how I got into that. So, I've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And in 2003, my partner and I decided to launch our own digital business for the RIA industry, which is a registered investment advisor industry. So that's kind of the tortured story, if you will.
No, it sounds like you've had a really interesting journey to bring you to, Paladin Digital Marketing. So why don't you tell me a little bit more about Paladin?
Sure, I will. So in 2003, as I mentioned, my partner and I broke away from the corporate world and started our own firm. And it was really based on a book that he wrote back in 2003 called Who's Watching Your Money? And it was really the first book of its kind that helped everyday people understand how Wall Street uses financial advisors to market their services, if you will. I mean, it was really kind of the first time, we pulled the curtain back so that people really understood the difference between high and low quality financial advisors. And so it was very timely because it came out right around the time of Bernie Madoff scandal. So we had all these people reaching out to us saying, God, if we had only known, right, what could have been, how do we go about finding professionals that you highlight in this book? So it was kind of our first light bulb moment, like, maybe there's an opportunity to create a service where we can pair everyday people to vetted, rated financial advisors that had gone through our proprietary screening process. And so that was our first light bulb moment, where we created what we called the Paladin registry. And Paladin, for those of you who don't know, it means kind of taking up the charge, like the white knight on the horse, is looking out for people. And so that's kind of what our thought was, all these people, me included, was one of those who got kind of scammed by an advisor who wasn't necessarily looking out for my best interest, but was looking out for theirs. And so we wanted to help people with that. So we created what we called the Paladin registry. And it was a lead generation service for independent registered investment advisors, what we call RIAs, to connect with everyday people who were looking for help managing their money. And I mean, we had really no experience in that, in the internet doing lead generation, but we were one of only 2 firms that survived over a 16-year period doing that. So, we learned a lot along the way, but, we had a very nice business doing that. And then about 2 years before we decided to sell the registry, some of our clients who were the registered investment advisors, the financial advisory firms, they came to us and they said, we don't really get this whole digital marketing thing. Our websites have never converted a contact, or, we've never received a contact, or, let alone maybe, gotten a new client off of them. Email marketing is here and there. We don't get social media at all. We've done a little blogging, or we don't know what to write about. So it was kind of our second light bulb moment, like, there's probably an opportunity here for us to create a digital marketing agency that provides those types of services to the registered investment advisor space. So we actually had planned on selling the registry. So we actually sold that in 19, and by then we had just started the digital marketing agency, and that's how things kind of kicked off.
That's fantastic. That's a really interesting journey for you, kind of going from the Paladin registry to now, hearing what your clients were saying and really capitalizing on their needs and
Right.
meeting them where they're at.
Right. Well, we learned so much in that 16 years running the registry. We learned how to reach investors. We knew that pain points and really identifying what people were looking for was a way to kind of draw the moth to the flame, if you will. And so we thought, hey, we've done this for 16 years for ourselves. We can probably turn around and do this for the advisory space. And so it worked out really nicely.
And to the point of pain points, kind of talking about your experience, what would you say are some of the common challenges or pain points that a lot of businesses face when it comes to digital marketing?
Well, the old saying, you don't know what you don't know, right? And I think, what we run across is a lot of the firms that we talk with, they've tried their, some version of digital marketing, but it really was not targeted. In the financial advisory space, there are a lot of template-based websites that you can purchase, or not purchase, but lease. You're basically leasing or renting a website is what you're doing. And they've come a long way. I will say that they've definitely come a long way. But from an SEO perspective, they're not super SEO friendly. Let alone, I think a lot of people who create those template-based, they don't even know what SEO is. So it's really helping them form that foundation. You can create a brochure that looks interesting, but is it targeted to your audience? And is it all, I guess what we were telling people, it shouldn't be all about you. It should be about your visitor and their experience and what they're looking for and how you weave into that story, right? So that, I think, has been one of the things that we've helped a lot of firms overcome is don't just talk all about yourself. You've got to position your content to talk to the visitors who are visiting and make that connection so that they then see, maybe these folks can help, right?
Yeah. So kind of what I'm hearing is there's a lot of different services that Paladin offers, kind of like of what I was hearing. Walk me through what those are.
Okay. Well, it typically starts with the website, right? Your website serves as your 24/7 greeter. That's the foundation of everything. And so most of the firms that we work with, we help them create new websites that are, more lead generation oriented, again, more pain point, persona targeted, I guess, if you will. Then once we have the website, kind of that foundation built, we do an aggressive organic outreach with SEO. So we will, we create quarterly editorial calendars. that include what we call pillar pages, which serve as kind of the SEO foundation. And then we write blogs that are associated to those pillar pages and start, linking strategies back and forth. We do extensive social media. We do email marketing. We do video production. We do other branding services, advertising. I mean, you name it, we can provide that full service platform. Most of the firms that hire us use us as their digital marketing department. So if they have their own internal marketing, that's great, because what we do is we then partner with them they feed us ideas and then we execute. So it then frees up the marketing team to do other things to help nurture, support team, internally, clients, outreach, what have you. So it works very nicely when we have that true partnership together.
Yeah. And, to the point of your clients, do you tend to see different industries or verticals that tend to work with Paladin more than others?
Well, we've kind of made the conscious decision to just be very niche focused. And so we typically work with just the financial services space. We do have some B2B clients. So we have kind of more like fintech clients who actually service the financial advisory space. And so we help them, instead of reaching out to everyday investors who have money to invest in the stock market, we help these firms connect to financial advisory firms that need their services.
I think that's, a really important differentiating factor based on kind of what I've heard from you about what makes Paladin stand out, is that because you are so specialized, you're able to really deliver that support that your clients need in that industry.
Right. And, so just to give you, obviously my background is in the financial services space. My partner's background, he actually built and ran a money management firm as well as an RIA, where they had, 250 advisors. So we know the language, we understand the compliance around it, the regulations, et cetera. So we truly do understand the business, which I think is really important, especially when you're writing about an emotional topic such as money. You really need to have that understanding.
And also, too, in a highly regulated area as well.
Yeah, oh, definitely. I mean, that. One of the challenges that we have, every client that we have has a different, what we call compliance process. Every firm has its own compliance officer or a firm that they use for compliance. And, there's do's and don'ts, right? So every client, we have a long list of, words you can use, words you can't use, and things you can't say, and phrase it this way versus that way, So, words like achieve become pursue, because you can't be promissory, right? So there's small nuances like that, which again are important when you're looking for specialized services.
Yeah, no, I think I think it's a really important, like I said already, a differentiating factor, having known, you guys have the background, you have the years of experience. And, to the point of talking about the years of experience, I think that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And one of my favorite questions to ask our guests is talking about common misconceptions. I imagine that you have probably seen a lot. And I'm curious kind of what stands out to you as the most common misconception or most significant misconception that you've heard.
Well, I think one of the misconceptions about digital marketing is, if you build it, they will come. I mean, that back in the day, it used to be like that. I mean, you could build a website and you could, write a 300 or 400 word blog and you get all this exposure. And that's really not how it works. And it also takes a lot of time. I mean, to build true organic visits that are meaningful visitors versus bots or just kind of spammy visitors. I mean, it really takes time to make that grow. And so a lot of advisors that we talk with, they want instant gratification. And we can do instant gratification, but that's in the form of advertising. But if you want meaningful, deeper organic growth, that actually is going to take time. And that's probably the biggest misconception we have that we hear about digital marketing.
I think that's a really important note because, I think that there are a lot of agencies that just promise saying, well,
Right.
you do it, it's done, it'll happen. And that's not
That's
the
right.
case.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, anyone who tells you we can get you on page one, well, especially right away, good luck. I mean, again, if you want to pay for that position, you certainly can get there. But, to build it organically and, again, depending upon how, how tough the keyword is, how competitive it is. I mean, when we were doing lead generation, and this was, a number of years ago, the broad term financial advisor, I mean, to get on that page one organically took a long, long, long time, right? So, I mean, like, a couple of years kind of thing. So if someone is telling you we can get you on page one right away, take a
Run.
step back. Yeah. Run.
No, I think that's fantastic. Well, Debbie, as we start to wrap up this conversation, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with, either about Paladin, about, digital marketing, anything you want to leave our listeners with?
Well, I think you need to approach it from the perspective of it being a long-term commitment. It's not something that can happen overnight unless you throw a lot of money at it, right? I mean, we had a client that was in the commercial real estate business in Austin, Texas, and they were relatively new and they really wanted to make an organic impact. And so we said, okay, we can help you do this, but here's what it's going to take. We were doing like 8 blogs a month, 1 or 2 pillar pages. We were doing video. I mean, we just hit it hard for like 4 months, and it was a substantial investment, but it did work. But most people are looking, to post maybe 1 to 3, maybe 4 blog posts a month, which is a lot. And that takes a lot of time and effort and thought, so be patient. It will work. You just have to, you have to feed the engine. I guess the other thing I would say is make sure if you're doing your own writing, that's great. Make sure you're writing about the right topics. So I'll just end with this story. So we had one of our very first agency clients was a firm that was highly successful, but they came to us and they said, we're not getting the right demographics coming to our website, and so we probed a little bit more, and their demographic was a 45-year-old Silicon Valley female executive, breadwinner of the household. And when we looked at the content that they were writing on their website, they were writing, and this is a true story, several of their advisors, male advisors, were writing topics about comparing the Super Bowl to investing, and things of that nature that just completely probably would bypass most of their ideal target. So when we said, okay, let's take a step back and refresh who you should be writing for, they actually were then able to start reaching their target audience, because again, we came up with keywords and topics that were related to that 45-year-old female executive who was the major breadwinner. So, a lot of people write because they like to write about a certain topic, but it might not be relatable to who your target audience is. So make sure that you have a good strategy if you're going to be doing your own writing.
Absolutely. And if you're not, that's the reason why you should contact Pat.
Exactly. That's
a good call to action. Well, awesome. Well, Debbie, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you being a Business Ninjas today, talking about, how you've grown different companies, your experience in the digital marketing world. I really appreciate your time today.
You bet. Well, it was great talking with you. Thanks so much.
Absolutely.